right, what is up, guys? It is another episode of Inside the LPGA Podcast. I am Hope Barnett, a host and reporter for the LPGA Tour, and we are nearing the end of the season, which means we are nearing the end of our podcast season, which is very, very sad, but lo and behold, I am very happy to be here with my besties, my co-host, Talley and Adam Stanley. How's it going, guys? Once again, we are all in different places of the world, but me and Adam will be in the same place here very soon.
Yeah, we're coming down to the season finale, the CME Group Tour Championship down in Naples. I can't wait to get down there. You guys, I got to say, you guys rocked it out last week with Nelly. What an interview. What a conversation. I think, as obviously part of the group, but also an observer and a fan, obviously, of women's golf and the LPGA Tour, just very quickly, shout out to you guys for asking some great questions. And I thought Nelly was so open and just such a great interview. We don't really hear big, long conversations like that with Nelly because it's kind of like, hey, what was working well for you today? What do you think about climbing the leaderboard, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that conversation with Nelly last week was awesome. And then podcast bump. She goes on to win. Tremendous.
I know. You love to see it. Not the first time that's happened, let me just say. Not going to say it's the podcast, but I'm also not going to say that it's not. Emma,
where are you at?
Place.
Yeah,
I'm in a fancy bougie hotel at Pebble Beach. I'm playing in the Pebble Beach Invitational this week. My dad's caddying for me, kind of my last hurrah before the off season as well. So very happy to be here. It's such a beautiful place and just making a lot of memes.
All the memes. I love it. I'm so jealous.
Have you played there before?
Yeah, I've done this event several times. So it's such a cool event. They do such a good job. You get to play Spyglass, Pebble, and Spanish Bay. So it's such a cool experience. And it is a little chilly. That's the only downfall. But everything is really nice and the food's great. And they take care of us. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Well, I think I would actually prefer some cold right now because I was just walking out here in Naples and it is warm, but I can't complain. It's a beautiful place.
Come on up here.
I know. No, you're too cold for me. I can't do Canada.
Okay, so
we need an in-between.
Yeah.
We need an in-between. No, but actually that leads us perfectly into our next topic because it was a very exciting week last week. As you mentioned, Adam, we had Nelly Korda on. She went on to win. And also Caitlin Clark played in the Pro-Am. She said her dream course to play is Pebble. So I think they should invite her to this Pro-Am. I think that would be the perfect
That'd be pretty sick.
I don't know. Yeah. So I got to meet her and she was so nice. But it was a super exciting week. We're going to get into that in a minute. It is almost time for the CME Group Tour Championship, which is going to be so much fun. But before we do that, we have to catch up with a very special guest, a very good friend of yours, Emma. We're going to have Hannah Green on, which is just, I think, the icing on the cake for the end of the season because she has had an incredible season. So Emma, without further ado, why don't you introduce our guest, not even so much of what she's done this year, which you can, but just who she is as a friend.
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other since back in the Symetra days, and she's just such a nice person, super down to earth. She's won 6 times, 3 times this year. Her first one was a major at KPMG. She's just the coolest cat out there. I don't know how to explain it more than that, but
coolest cat.
So even-keeled all the time, works hard, and she's kind of become what I would see as the mom of the Aussies out here, because now she's the older one in the group. So I'm excited to hear her talk about the Aussies.
So without further ado, let's throw it to our interview with Hannah. All right, everybody, welcome Hannah Green to Inside the LPGA Podcast. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So we have to start with the fact that you have had an incredible year. You've had 6 wins on the LPGA, but 3 of them have come just in this season. So what has been working so well for you? Does anything feel different? Is it because you're a married woman now? You just feel different out on the golf course, or what is it? But you've just had an amazing year.
Yeah, it's funny. People have said that. Obviously, when I won in Singapore, only, I guess, my second event for the year, I don't really know what the difference is, to be honest. I guess I've just had some weeks where everything is kind of worked, and I've been able to putt really well, and I feel like this year I've been pretty consistent with that. So yeah, I don't really know the explanation for the 3 wins, but yeah, it's been a really great season. So it's kind of strange to already be at the last event of the year.
Definitely. Emma, I'm going to toss it over to you because y'all are besties. So I'm like, just have at it. Start asking the questions, girl.
Yeah. I have so many questions. I first want to point out that at KPMG, the first win you ever had, you putted left-hand low. And I feel like you kind of, like on the putting green and stuff, you always kind of are switching around. Nate told me that every win since then has been conventional. Is there something to that? Do you just like going left hand low, or like what's the deal there? Give us the scoop.
Yeah, so I guess I changed to that to begin with because my shoulders were like all out of whack and I was just stroking it like really poorly under pressure. So I was like, well, I think something needs to change. So obviously a grip change is pretty easy compared to changing putters all the time. So I did that, and then I went back to conventional for when I won in Portland like a few months later. So it was a bit cheeky, I guess, but I kind of just switched that. Actually this year I did change completely different shaft. So I've got a center shaft, and that was my first time trying that because I just couldn't line the ball up as to where I thought I was. And obviously that has been very helpful this year too. But I've spoken a couple of times with Janet because that's kind of the thing that hasn't really gotten her across the line. And she always asks me because she does notice that I change things very quickly. And I don't think she did in the end, but she was asking me about, what are we doing this week? Which putter grip are we trying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, because I see you do different stuff, and like, I mean, this year you said you're very consistent this year, and I think that's something that all of us players see of you. You've got some players that win a lot. You've got, they say you make 90% of your money in 10% of your tournaments, which is true, but you are a cut maker. I mean, you make so many cuts. You're pretty consistent all year long. And so I think my next question is just like, how have you been able to balance that on and off the course? I feel like you're very level-headed. You're very consistent with your game. You're very consistent out on the golf course, the way you react to shots. And you're so far away from home. So like, how are you able to balance that with your coaches and with your husband and all of the things?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the thing that makes it the toughest for sure, being away from home so much. But I actually joined a golf club in Fort Worth last year. Cheyenne Knight and a few other LPGA players are a member there. So that's actually been really helpful. And I think I've been there maybe 7 weeks this year. So just going somewhere familiar. Obviously it gets really hot in Texas, but it's just been really nice to have a facility and a place that I can call home away from home. But yeah, it's tough being on the road for sure. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live, even if you're an American. It's a lot of travel that we experience throughout the year, but I think that also makes me more motivated and more excited about being out on the LPGA. So yeah, it's tough, but I've certainly enjoyed the travel, and I don't know if I would want to just play one course for the rest of my life. I think I would get way too bored just playing at my home course that I grew up with.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's nothing like a good competition, and I think people ask me, I'm going to retire at the end of the year, and so many people have said, like, are you going to play golf all the time? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's going to be really hard for me to play golf all the time. Like, maybe Friday night, 9 and dine, but it's going to be tough to just like go play all the time by yourself. Before you hopped on here, Hannah, I kind of aged you a little bit. I'm so sorry because you're not old at all. But I said you've become kind of the Aussie mom out here. You're one of the older Aussies out on tour, but all of you guys are really, really close. You see each other out at dinner. You guys are always bantering at each other. How has the Aussie golf, can you just tell the people listening, because a lot of people don't know how the golf federations work and that there actually is an Aussie golf house. Can you just explain to the listeners how all that works, how they've supported you, and kind of like how that system has helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all of us Aussies are really close. Not many of us have family or people that we travel with, so we kind of just travel with each other. And I guess Gracie, Steph, and Karis I somewhat traveled with this year, and it's just so much fun. Like, it's nice to be able to switch off once you get back home. Golf can obviously have its really good days, but there's probably more so tougher days than good. So just like being able to relate to someone, but also just have a bit of fun together. Aussie humor is not for everyone, and some people probably wouldn't understand our sarcasm, but we all get along really well, so that's really fun.
I don't sometimes.
I love it.
It takes some getting used to. I think Steph and her caddy Way would probably be the most brutal, but
definitely.
We're very she's a laugh, that one. But we're very fortunate that we have Golf Australia. So we have a program while we're in amateur, so we can get some financial support, some exposure to events in Asia as well as around the world. We also have a program for when we're in our first 5 years as a professional called the Rookie Squad. So pretty much all of us that are on tour have been in through that program, where we get some financial help and as well as some just mentoring. It's really surprising, I guess, that there's, such a great program, and obviously it's paying off really well, both in the men and the women. And when I played on Epson, with the exchange rate between the US and Australia, it was just so expensive, let alone the expenses as an American playing on the Epson. If I didn't have that support, I had no other financial support or sponsor. So very fortunate to have had their help for a few years, and I'm actually fortunate enough that I'm able to actually give back to that program now and to grassroots. I am now a foundation ambassador, so I'm super excited about that.
Congrats.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Hannah, you talked a few minutes ago, obviously road life, it's hard. It's kind of part of the deal, but let's talk about when you are at home. What does an ideal day look like for you? Is it a flat white? Is it a beer at home? Like what's an ideal day for you? Yeah, in Australia. Don't
want to hear about
ideal
Texas.
Day. Yeah, we have Texas. Plus
Texas
also
is
shout out Nate, your caddy. Fellow Canadian, so we do love to see that. Yeah.
So I'm actually not a coffee drinker, which is very unusual as an Australian, because we are classed as quite snobby. So typically I would
so
go
proud
out.
of your coffee.
Oh, mate, I know. I hear it a lot from everyone. So I'm like a tea drinker. So I actually do enjoy tea. I don't just drink it because I feel left out. So usually like a matcha or a chai, I'll have that in the morning. Sometimes homemade, sometimes I'll go out and get one. But honestly, I am quite boring. I really don't do a whole lot when I'm at home. I honestly just want to be at home. Yeah, I do puzzles. I'm literally doing like a paint by number. Like, I'm like a grandma. I was talking with Steph Kiriakou and her caddy Way, and she was like, "Did you do anything fun while you're home?" I was like, "No. Like, my highlight was going to Bunnings and buying some new flowers for the garden."
And that's
and
why
she was
I
like,
love her.
These are important things. Yeah.
I mean, someone's got to buy them. So no,
They're not going to grow themselves.
No, exactly. And the joy that it brought me when they were planted and I could see them, that was well worth it. But I don't really do a whole lot when I'm home. I mean, I catch up with friends and family, but yeah.
Perfect. Hannah, we on the pod, we usually do this little segments called the Instagram investigation. We dive in, we try to find a photo from way back in the day and have the guest explain it to us. Now, for you, I was going to ask you something about dyeing your hair, because it did seem like you're a big fan of changing your hair color.
Love it.
We went all the way back to the very, very beginning. Your very, very first Instagram post from 2015.
Oh my god!
Who are those little kiddos? Look at that. So that is, I believe, that is your husband and you. 2015. Tell us, do you remember this photo?
I remember the place.
Do you remember how you were at this point, 2015? Give us the rundown. Give us the scoop.
Gosh, I don't even know if it was for an occasion, but I remember it was actually at Jared's family's place, which they don't no longer live in that house anymore. But I don't know.
It's June the 6th was when the post happened. June the 6th of 2015. If that sparks anything,
because no one's born in June. Unless maybe it was Jared's dad's belated birthday. No, I don't know what the occasion was. I guess we just wanted to get dressed up. Who knows? It was probably a weeknight too.
Yeah.
9 years. What's been the big change? 9 years. Oh my gosh! Like that's almost a third of the lifetime, I guess, almost at this point. How explain to us the relationship, the journey. Give us the rundown.
I mean, yeah, we've been together since I was 15 years old, so we're coming up over 12 years now. So we were still quite young, and I guess young, but yeah, I don't know what that occasion was, but I think because we were both like at home, it was easier for us to see each other and do date night. Most of the time now it's over a FaceTime call that we get to see each other. But Jared's still playing professionally down in Oz, so he's actually has a week off this week, but we're both playing the Australian Open next week. So that'll be quite fun to, play myself, but then also be looking out on the leaderboard to see how he's going.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. Do you guys compete when you're home?
We get asked this all the time, and we actually don't. We don't really play that much together. He loves to play, and I like to practice. So, he has to drag me out onto the golf course, and even then, he's like competitive with me, but I'm not as competitive against him. But we'll go play ping pong or tennis, and I'll think that I'm really good, and I'm not, and I'll just want to beat him. So it really depends what we do.
Yeah.
I love that.
My sponsor, Serve Pro, has stepped up in a big way with this podcast.
Yes, they have, because when bad shots happen in golf, there's the mulligan ball. And when fire, water, or other damage happens, there is what, Emma? Tell us.
Pro! Thankfully, they know how to make it like it never even happened. I know I've had plenty of mulligans in my life, and this is where our question to you comes, Hannah. If you had a mulligan, whether it be in life or in golf, where would you take it, and what would it be?
So the first thing that comes into my head in terms of golf would probably be at the Olympics this year. I guess I played my way into contention on Sunday, and I needed to birdie the last hole to try and force a playoff for a bronze medal, and I was maybe too aggressive and tried to hit driver and then bailed into the bunker, made par. Yeah. So perhaps if I got another mulligan, I would have maybe hit 3-wood off the tee and then been aggressive into the green. But then in a in life, I should say, I ordered Thai food last week with Nicole Brock-Larson, or Esther, I should say. And I was giving her shit because she didn't have any veggies. And I was like, come on, Brock, how old are you? Have some veggies in your curry. And then, and then I get my curry, and it's just pretty much all onion, no meat, nothing. So she has the upper hand. So that would be my in-life mulligan.
Love it.
That's so fair.
Love it.
That's hilarious. Hannah, do you have any fun off-season plans? I love to hear about all of y'all's off-season plans, because I feel like all year, everyone is having to travel and work, and then finally when the season's over, I feel like everyone goes and does something fun.
Yeah, so I guess after Aussie Open, I'll go back to Perth. I'll be there for about a week, and then my osteo, Aaron, is actually getting married. So that's a trip to Melbourne for a few days. And then my sister-in-law is actually getting married early January, so I am a bridesmaid, so I'm excited about that. That's just in Perth, but a couple of weddings, no other planned trips with a golf club or golf bag at least. Honestly, I just want to be at home as long as I can. I'm so boring. Look at what golf has done to me.
No, I think it's
done that to all of us, honestly. People are like, what do you like to do? I'm like, sit in my bed and read
Nothing?
my book. Hannah, I have one more question for you. You've seen this golf course for the whole golf course now because you came early from Pelican. I know there's a couple changes out there. We're gonna talk about that as well later on, but it's playing a bit longer. And how does the golf course look?
Yeah, it looks really good. Honestly, every time we come to Naples, the course looks really good. So I actually really like Tiburon. I think there's a good variety of golf holes out there. And obviously now with a couple of the tees going a bit further back, I think it will definitely change the scoring come the end of the week. But again, with this storm, we just don't know how much rain we're going to get. So they might just push everything forward, which would be unfortunate because I think it would be nice if you're fighting for $4 million to see the scores a little bit higher than usual. I think Amy went really low last year, and obviously in the past people have too. So yeah, I hope that, Terry gets the scoring that he wants because obviously he's putting so much money invested into us, this week and throughout the whole entire year. So I think it would be nice to have a bit of a challenge for us this week.
Awesome. I love it. Give her the challenge, people. Give her the challenge.
Yeah.
She wants to work for that. She wants to work for that $4 million.
Make me stress.
Yeah. Literally.
I love that. I have just one more question before we wrap up. Also, it's getting so dark. I was using natural lighting for people listening. I look like I'm in a dark, scary, haunted house right now, but it's not the point. Hannah, I think obviously, like we've talked about, you've had an amazing season. I'm sure you would say that you've had ups and downs as well, but what have you kind of learned about yourself this year? 3 wins, but I think we talked about it with Nelly on the podcast last week. People don't always see the grind and the hard work that you put in behind the scenes. So what have you learned about yourself this year?
For sure. I guess some events I haven't gotten off to the best start, you always imagine so. And I was actually looking at my stats the other day, and my scoring average is 2 shots worse on round 1. So I think just to be able to fight back and give myself, some opportunities the next 3 days, I think I'm proud to see that stat hasn't, only gets better throughout the week, because it's quite easy to just throw in the towel and just, try and give up. And especially the Olympics, I think that shows after round 1, I was completely out of it and then almost in contention for a medal come Sunday. So yeah, I think just not being so hard on myself, even though Emma did say I'm pretty calm out there, there are times where I kind of get in my own head and go a little bit quiet. So I think just, because I've had such a great year, I want to have those moments again and just putting more pressure on myself. So I think I'm obviously proud of how I've performed when I'm playing well, but also when I'm not going so well.
Yeah, definitely. Aw, well, that was a great way to end this.
I want to
Thank
say
you, Hannah.
one thing. Hannah, please.
Go ahead.
I want to know because I feel
Aloud.
I know from an American golfer standpoint, the LPGA is where you want to be. And I always tell you guys, I can't imagine leaving your country, leaving your culture, leaving your family, and coming to a different country and playing golf. And I know that this has all been your guys' dream too. What would your 15-year-old self think of you doing this right now and doing it so well? Can you believe that it's all happening?
Yeah, no, I don't think if you told me that I would ever have reached world number 5, that I would have believed you back then.
Yeah.
As an Aussie, there's quite a small percentage of us that play professionally regardless of just being on the LPGA. So, I probably wouldn't believe you as a 15-year-old, but even though if I did have mulligans in life, I'm pretty happy with how everything's gone. Obviously, things do happen for a reason and in a weird way, but I've been pretty fortunate that I haven't had to go through too many tough moments, but I think that only makes the better moments more rewarding. So, yeah, it is quite crazy just to think all of us, this is my 7th season. It's just gone by like a blink of an eye.
So fast.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us and for doing this. I know it's a big week.
Congratulations on
Thanks, guys.
the whole season as well. What an effort, start to finish. Just amazing.
Thanks, guys. It's been a fun
it's
year.
not done.
It ain't over. Give her a challenge, people.
I know.
She got cash that check. You got to buy some.
I know. I'll buy a bigger house to have a bigger garden.
Yeah, bigger garden. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's girl math right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for having me,
Well,
guys.
thank you so much, Hannah, again.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
Have fun with Gracie.
Thank you.
All right, obviously great to catch up with Hannah, and we're very, very thankful to have her on because it is a very big week and it is a very big purse, which again, we will get to in a moment. But before we do that, Hannah has won a lot this year, and some might say that, you know, if it weren't for Nelly, if it weren't for Lydia, she would probably have the best season on tour. But someone who's won more than Hannah Green is Nelly Korda, and that is who won last week at the Anika driven by Gamebridge. It was insane, okay? During the final round, I had absolutely no idea who was going to win, and I feel like I've said that in so many podcasts, but honestly, that's how I like my final rounds. Like, stress me out because it keeps me on my toes. But Nelly on the 11th hole, she was 2 over on the front nine, made the turn, and she did what she does best. She just took it hole by hole. She got to the 11th, and she was like, I should probably start birdieing. I should probably start doing that. She birdied 11 through 16. She birdied 5 holes in a row to basically win, which is absurd. And then we obviously saw Sebastian, which is her brother. They're all professional athletes. We saw him at the end on 18, surprising her, which just warmed my heart. I was like right there to capture a video. I just happened to be right there, and I was like, oh, recording the whole thing. So that was awesome. But it was an amazing week. Anika, you know, hosting the tournament, Caitlin Clark playing in the Pro-Am, Nelly Korda winning. It was a showdown with Charlie Hull. It couldn't be a better 2 in the final group. And then obviously Weiwei, we'll get to her in a minute. But from an outside perspective, Adam, how cool was that to see all of the chatter and to see everyone talking about so many different things in a single week on the LPGA?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was as good as you could have asked for, right? And it kind of comes back down to the players themselves. I mean, you can preheat the oven, but you might still burn the turkey. And in this particular capacity, like the meal was just cooked perfectly to set up for viewership and excitement and kind of that final round drama, which regardless of if you're LPGA Tour, PGA Tour, if you're women's basketball, if you're NHL, if you're whatever, you want to have people engaged all the way to the end. And the fact that you had these larger-than-life personalities in Nelly Korda and in Charlie Hull kind of like doing the darn thing late on a Sunday, that part obviously is super exciting. And the fact that we got to that point after there was so many kind of tertiary eyeballs on, the tournament this week because of the Caitlin Clark effect. Like, Hope, some of those just social videos and the photography that we saw and just the absolute like bonkers just observations of how many eyeballs and physical beings come out to want to be in the atmosphere of Caitlin Clark, to have her kind of come play golf and say and acknowledge like, hey, golf is cool. And you wanted all these people to think that, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen this week? And then the biggest star in the women's game who played alongside Caitlin Clark ended up winning the tournament. By the time we got to Sunday was, 10 out of 10. Couldn't have asked for anything better. And quickly, obviously, too, the event is named after the GOAT. We've had her on this podcast in Anika Sorenstam. So tournament named after Anika Sorenstam is won by the undisputed world number 1. Just absolutely tremendous. But that, of course, is at the very top of the leaderboard. I think as you look down, you're going to see it's the penultimate event. It's the last full field event of the season. So with that comes the drama of people fighting for their cards, for their jobs. The top 100 after this week gets the LPGA Tour card for next year. And then obviously the top 60 as well get into this week at the CME Group Tour Championship. So Emma, I kind of wanted to, from a player's perspective, when it's kind of Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and if you're one of the bubble golfers, are you thinking about that, or are you trying to think one shot at a time? And what kind of mental pressure does it put on somebody who's maybe in that mix, to try to re-earn a card or try to get into the Tour Championship? Describe the kind of mental approach to a week like this.
I'm gonna say a lot, so I'm gonna go backwards real quick and just give Nelly a shout out again because. The holes that she did birdie, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, those are not the easiest holes on the golf course, especially hole 13 and 14. So kind of baller status to an extreme there. So kudos to her. From a player's perspective, I was like, oh, and she birdied those holes. So those are not the easiest holes in the golf course. In fact, they're probably the two hardest holes in the golf course, other than two. And then on top of that, yeah, I mean, it was very nerve-wracking for a lot of those girls. You've got different people fighting for different things. You've got girls fighting to keep their jobs, like you said, top 100. Shout out to Caroline Inglis, who finished 100th 2 years in a row. She booted me out last year. I think I finished 102. So I was one of those players last year at Pelican, like hoping to keep my job. So yeah, it's really hard, because you've got to think too, the Epsom players that just finished their season like a month ago, they've had time to rest and recover, practice, and get ready for Q school. Whereas the LPGA girls, it's been a grind. They're just now finishing. They have like a week and a half, and then they've got to go right back into it at Q school. So it's just like when I texted Caroline, she said to me, she was like, I cannot play another round of golf this year. So just to put in perspective, like, it's just been a long year for a lot of players. And then you've got people who, Steph Kiriakou, for example, was like 59, I think, and then she dropped out of CME, which is a bummer, because this is the biggest purse of the year, and it's the most elite tournament, really, tour championship. It's the biggest, no cut. So yeah, you've got a lot of players fighting for different things, because even top 80 gets you certain things that top 100 doesn't, and so you've got players fighting for a lot. So there's a lot of pressure. And yeah, as much as you want to think one shot at a time, it's very difficult. And you're definitely, if you're missing that cut on Friday afternoon, you're definitely looking at those projected cuts, like refresh. So yeah, pretty crazy week, but I'm excited for all those that kept their card and ready to do it again in a couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the craziest parts about last week, is just constantly refreshing and like figuring out where people are going to finish, and like doing the math, which, by the way, I don't think I can do simple math, because I said Nelly birdied 16 and it was 5 in a row. So
that's
it's 15, okay. But that's fine. You know what I meant.
Well, it's hard. 11 plus 5 is 16. I still have to do this on my fingers.
I know. So
I'm with you.
I'm glad it's not just me, but I know you said that and I was like, oh yeah, it's not 16, but you know what I'm saying. But I wanted to quickly go over who I guess we'll just do like 55 to 60, like the last players that got into the field. And that is going to be Linnea Strom. And isn't that crazy? Like, she won this year. That just shows how competitive it is. She's 55th. And then Mi-Hyang Lee, she had a really good week this last week, but she was already in. Ryan O'Toole, Leona Maguire, Hyoju Kim, and then Carlota Segonda is the 60th player. And she literally got in from a good finish last week. She played really well, and she just scooched her way into the CME Group Tour Championship. But with that comes the players that didn't get in. And the 61st player is Gabby Lopez. And then we have Steph Kiriakou, like you said, 62nd. So there's a lot of players right there on the cusp that unfortunately didn't get in. But on the bright side, they keep their cards. You know, they'll obviously be here next year, and I'm sure they'll come back with vengeance. But a big one that we have to talk about quickly is Wei Wei Zhang. So her rookie year was 2022, and her best finish before last week was a tie for 10th. And now, with her amazing finish, tied for second last week, she is going to keep her card no problem. And I think that's awesome. I think that's what it's all about. And it's also so stressful.
Yeah.
I can't imagine stepping up to the plate. Like, thankfully, I don't have to worry about those things. I'm like just talking about the players. But no, I think that actually, before we wrap up the Anika Driven by Gamebridge, which was an amazing week, we got to throw it to our stats guy, Mr. Adam Stanley. Tell us the crazy stats of what Nelly did.
Yeah, so we're back. KPMG Performance Insights for last week from the Anika. We got to go with Nelly, and of course, she managed to do something incredible again. So we had talked about it, the 5 straight birdies in the final round, but just to put it into context for this week's KPMG Performance Insight, she's the only player on the LPGA Tour to have a streak of 5+ birdies or better in the final round of a win. It was also Nelly's longest streak of birdies in any round all season long. So hell of a time for that. So very, very impressive to Nelly. Very, very quick. Korda, she has 4 wins this season when actually trailing in the final round, which is the most of anyone on the LPGA Tour since 1987. So Nelly's doing it from all over the shop. Just absolutely impressive. So kudos to her. And that was this week's KPMG Performance Insight.
She's a beast.
She's so crazy.
Period.
Podcast bump. Let's go. No, after the round, one of my colleagues told her, like, not to brag, but we have some good luck with our podcast players. And she was like, can I join next week?
Gabby said that
you can join
too.
whenever you want. Really? Let's have her on.
Everybody's kind of like
on.
no. Podcast.
Honestly, that's the reputation we need. Like, we need everyone to
this
just
is
go on
season
to
1.
win.
We're rolling. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. No, but it was a really good week. I've been to that tournament every year that it's been going on, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But it is now time we talk about the big one. It is the end of the year event. It is the Tour Champ, and it is a huge purse. It is $11 million. The winner gets $4 million, which is the biggest winner's prize in women's golf.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna bring up two key points. I think the on-site experience feels big, and Emma, we're gonna get to you. You're gonna talk about the golf course specifically in a minute or so. But when you arrive, like the 18th green build out it's pretty robust, and the golf course itself, like there's the hospitality around 17, like it just feels like there's this buzz, and there's a bit more of this kind of living, breathing kind of entity that you are on site for, because you know that something important and something significant is about to happen and is going to be unfolding this particular week. This golf course, the men have played it before. It's also hosting the Grant Thornton Invitational, the LPGA Tour, the PGA Tour event in a couple weeks as well. So, there is something about the setting that is big. And then obviously back to your point, the money, and there is so much kind of money conversation in golf, certainly on the men's side of things, but into context, $4 million goes to the winner. We talked about that before. Nelly Korda has had the season of all seasons. She's won 7 times. She has won $4.2 million all season long. That includes the 7 wins. So somebody's going to win $4 million this week, first place prize, and that's essentially going to match the whole of Nelly Korda's ledger from the balance of the year.
That's nuts.
So there just isn't this kind of money available on the LPGA Tour throughout the season. So to have that as an opportunity, when you think about Amy last year, Amy Yang, who won, 31 years old, was the oldest winner on the tour. Age is just a number. It was big. It was huge for her. It's huge again this week. So the money that's on offer, just incredible. And the setting as well is just big. It's a big, big week, and it's an important week. And Emma, there's been a couple changes this year to this golf course.
Yeah, and they're making it even bigger. Number 7, 10, 14, and 15 have all been moved back. And I'm just going to say, 14 was already a long par 5, so it's going to make it that much more tricky. There's water, there's bunkers. It's a tough hole. Number 15, tiny green. People, especially if the rain comes in, that could be a 6-iron to a hybrid into a very tricky green. So there's several holes that are just getting longer. This is a ball striker's paradise, definitely a long ball. It is going to set up well for someone who hits it long. And I've talked about that a lot this year, about how distance is becoming something that you have to be on the LPGA Tour. Yeah,
definitely. It is a huge week. And, we were just talking about the money. And I think that's actually crazy what you said too, Adam, about, that's pretty much what Nelly's made this year. And she's had an absolutely insane season. Yeah. And the 60th player in the field could win that. And I think that's so cool. And the runner up will also receive $1 million.
Get a million. Yeah. I was going to bring that up too. That's amazing.
Which is crazy. And
it's amazing.
Every single player is guaranteed to take home at least $55,000. So
yeah, and I think what we forget. Oh, totally. And I think what we forget, the men's game it's just so nuts the money they make. And the women's game is getting better and better each year. But this week really is showing how much Terry really wants to elevate the game, because $55,000 to us, $4 million for us, is life changing. It's not just like, oh yeah, in the bank. See it in 20 years. Like, most girls are going to do something with that because they need the money, whether that's buy a house or, you know, expenses for next year, whatever that it may be. It's life changing.
Hope, real quick before we wrap this up, we've talked about Terry a couple times on the podcast. Just for the listeners, viewers, we're talking about Terry Duffy. He's the chairman and I think CEO of the CME Group. So they're the big, obviously, presenting sponsors of the whole thing. Yep. Cranking up that purse. Incredible.
And he loves women's golf, so we love him.
Love women's golf. Yes.
And that's all you need to know. Quickly, before we wrap up this podcast, we want to do a very, very quick 9 of players to keep an eye on. So
can I go first?
Oh, yes, go for it. I was gonna say I'll kick it off.
You know, I'm competitive.
I
feel
actually
like
kind of want you to go
game
first.
In my mind. Okay, I have to pick Hannah, y'all. Like, I couldn't say this to her face in the interview. Every cut she's missed, she's won the next week. Well, guess what, y'all? She just missed the cut last week at Pelican. And now she's telling us that she likes the golf course. She wants to be a challenge, and she's ready to go. Like, okay,
I know.
Hannah Green, top pick, Hannah Green. Next, I have to say Ronnie Yen. I mean, she's had such an amazing year. She's a ball striker. She bombs it. So I think she's someone to watch this week. And I'm going to sneak in there Rose. I know we haven't talked a lot about her lately. She's kind of one of those people that she's been like a top 20 machine, really, but she hasn't really been up there in contention often. However, she did finish 5th last week at the Pelican, and I just think she has something about her that she shows up at big moments. So Rose is my last pick.
Love it. Adam, why don't you go next?
Ooh,
Let's
all
hear
right.
it.
I'm going to start with somebody who is finishing. Number 1 for me, Lexi Thompson.
Love it.
Final event, as I'm not 100% sure on the language, but final event is, I guess, a full-time player on the LPGA Tour. Comes into the week number 50 in the standings. She's had 4 top 10s this year, so a bit of a mixed bag, but kudos to her. I mean, obviously, there was 3 top 10s in a row at one point in the summertime. She's won this tournament, and funny enough, no American winner at this event since Lexi, since 2018. So it would be a heck of a way to go out for her. Number 2, I got to go with Gino Titakun. 6 straight top 10s, 2 runner-ups in that particular mix. The crazy thing for me in terms of consistency from her, we're talking about ball striking machines. We talk about someone who plays well from front to back. 11 top 10 finishes in 16 starts this year. Like, that is mind-boggling
so
kind of consistency. So to her is another one to look out for. Last one. Lydia Ko, 2-time winner of this particular event. Can she put the little star, the bright star on top of the Christmas tree at the end of this particular season? We shall see. But if there's anyone that's going to do it and have the flair for the dramatics, it's going to be Lydia Ko. So those are my 3.
Love it.
Absolutely. Those are some good ones.
All right.
All right.
I know, I at least know one of Hope's because no one said her yet. So let's hear
I know. And we have to talk about last week's champion, Nelly Korda. How could we not talk about her? Okay. She's won 7 times this year. And honestly, it really would be just a little bow on top of her season to win this week. Just double her earnings. Why not? You know, just whatever. It's casual. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
She's from Florida, so she always plays well in Florida tournaments. So I think she's absolutely someone to keep an eye on, the world number 1, and also was just announced that she is the Rolex Player of the Year. No surprise there. The next player I'm going to mention is who dueled it out with her last week, Charlie Hull.
Love it.
I love that girl. She's so funny. I love her. But she's actually won this tournament before, and I think people forget about that. She won in 2016, so it was a while back, but like we've mentioned, it's always at this golf course. And she's another player who like oddly loves Florida golf courses, and she said pretty openly she loves playing in the US. Like, she's from England, but there's something about those Florida golf courses that she likes. So I think she is someone to keep an eye on, and she's been trending, just won on the LET. And last but certainly not least is Lilia Vu. She's had kind of an up and down season, but also like not really. Like, she's had a win. She won on the Solheim Cup team. She's had some great finishes, and she finished 4th here last year. And coming off last year, going into this week, she had an all-time season. She was so good. She was the Rolex Player of the Year, and I feel like she's going to come into this week just wanting to like capitalize on her year and just put a bow on it. Put the star on top of the Christmas tree, like you said, Adam. Just whatever
opportunities for decorating this week.
Yes, whatever metaphor you want to use. We're approaching Christmas, and we're obviously feeling in the spirit.
That was 2 metaphors. We had a boat. We had a star in the tree. We had a turkey in the oven. That was for you guys, by the way.
Oh yeah, turkey in the oven was a good one. Yeah. That caught my attention. But I think that pretty much wraps us up. A big podcast episode for a very, very big week. But I think we have an exciting event at hand, and I am so excited to see how it's going to play out. So be sure to tune in. You're going to want to watch. Hopefully the rain doesn't mess us up too much. Fingers crossed. But yeah, be sure to tune in and come back here, because we are soon going to have a big season wrap up for the podcast. But everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And yeah, it's going to be a good week, y'all.
Y'all come back now.